Catherine, the Princess of Wales, looked magnificent during the royal part of the French state visit. She toasted the president of France, got to wear Dior and Givenchy. And of course, how can we forget to mention the glorious Queen Mary's lover's knot tiara? And then over on the side, we have Meghan Markle shilling flower sprinkles. Just the separation between real royals and the cosplay royals could not be more stark. And as this state visit winds down, it's once again a great opportunity to share sort of the difference between what the real royals do and the fake royals. Because Harry and Meghan claimed that even though they were living the royal family, they wanted to still leave a life of service because, service is universal. They promised to help support their patronages. But I shall argue most of their proclamations are just as shallow and empty as Meghan Markle's flower sprinkles. So we are going to get into this today. But if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network before, hello, my name is Brittany. I do provide compelling royal commentary. So please hit that subscribe button. I would love to have you back. And this is the final month to sign up for our South of France trip. So if you're interested in heading to Nice and Monaco, it's a short trip around 5 days late in September from the 25th through the 30th. We would absolutely love to have you join us. We have a great crew forming, and anyone else who wants to join the party is absolutely welcome to do so. So if you guys want to check that out, there will be a link up above and a link down below as well. And so now we'll get into the Crown Report, which sort of gives a overview of some of the other royal news pieces floating out there. We do have King Charles and Queen Camilla reviewing a new gallery exhibition at Buckingham Palace, showcasing the work of artists who have accompanied the royal family on various visits around the world. And we do also have Princess Elizabeth of the Belgians, who will be the future queen. She had been studying at Harvard University for her master's degree, but is probably unlikely to finish at the institution given all the restrictions regarding student visas for foreign students. And she has been somewhat wrapped up in that. She could probably utilize some of her privilege as a royal, but if other Belgian students cannot go, she has decided she won't go either. So that remains to be seen where that will go in the future. We do also have King Felipe and Queen Letizia of Spain attending the 105th edition of the ABC Journalism Awards there in Madrid. And Queen Letizia is looking fabulous in a black dress with a pearl necklace detail, which she doesn't usually go for pearls. So that's a bit of a surprise. And I feel like we've seen Catherine in a bunch of pearls. So are pearls on trend this year? I honestly can say I do not know, but interesting bit to consider. And we do also have a new documentary about Crown Princess Victoria of Sweden, in particular focusing on her military training. And in an interview, she discusses how she speaks to her children about sort of the conflicts going around the world and what that means for Sweden. So go ahead and take a listen to a little bit of this here.
Ja, det är jättesvårt för det är en obegriplig situation för oss alla. Alltså det som händer, vi har ju fortfarande svårt att ta in det och förstå riktigt varför och hur och kunna förklara det är jättesvårt.
All right, guys, that is it for today's edition of the Crown Report. So on to this interesting comparison, because I was thinking about it and all I could think of is Meghan Markle, this entire week or two since the second launch of her brand As Ever, has been showcasing a lot of people using her products, mostly though flower sprinkles. And then she made a deliberate attempt on the launch day to sort of increase sales by going, oh my gosh, we're almost selling out of our flower sprinkles. And she did kind of a cringy video where she actually looked more emotional than happy. It was very strange. And I'm like thinking about this flower sprinkle thing and how pointless it is, how shallow it is, how devoid of meaning. It's just something you can sprinkle on your food that does not increase its taste, does not, in some cases, probably makes it taste good. It's literally just a garnish there to make it look pretty for 2 seconds until you eat or drink it, as some people have put it in matcha, apparently. And I was sitting there thinking, Meghan Markle left the royal family, making a big hubbubaloo about how she was going to do things better. And yet, all she is doing is shilling flower sprinkles. And then you have Catherine, who helped host the French president this week, and in a couple months, will host Donald Trump, the United States president, where world leaders literally sit next to her, give her winks as she is stunningly beautiful, have conversations with her about the future of their countries, their mutual countries, France and the United Kingdom, and then the United Kingdom and the United States. Deep, meaningful conversations, and ones that will last not only just now, but years and decades into the future as Catherine and William assume the throne one day. And despite Meghan's fans' proclamations to the contrary, Meghan Markle did not trade up. She traded immensely down pursuing her Hollywood dreams, looking like the fools that they are in so many ways, because Harry and Meghan claim to be wanting to change the world. They claim to have the ears, you could say, and the attention of world leaders. They claim themselves to be world leaders. They claim that they're doing deep, meaningful, impactful work. But you see the actual royals, and it just, again, becomes immensely apparent who is the actual power players here, and how if Meghan Markle truly wanted to actually enact world change, she would actually have been in St. George's hallway there in Windsor, conversing with the French president or the first lady of France or another member of the French delegation, instead of reposting stories of her flower sprinkles being used by people who are probably just trying to increase their social media account themselves. It's empty. It's just devoid of anything deeper and anything Harry and Meghan claim to advocate for. And I guess you could say I've been inspired by so many Daily Mail articles looking at the past and the breakdown of Harry and Meghan publicly in many ways, to just really look and think about what Harry and Meghan have said and claimed to do, and the reality of their situation. So, the first, of course, is the claim that service is universal. Let's look at what Harry and Meghan said many, many moons ago. So here is the Buckingham Palace statement. It says, following the conversations with the Duke, the Queen has written confirming that in stepping away from the work of the royal family, it is not possible to continue with the responsibilities and duties that come with the life of public service. And in response, Harry and Meghan pushed back, of course, saying that we can all live a life of service. Service is universal. And they go on to say even further that they remain committed to their duty and service to the UK and around the world, and have offered their continued support to the organizations they have represented, regardless of official role. But, ladies and gentlemen, what do we know in the 5+ years since Mexit? Well, we know that's completely and utterly untrue. Harry and Meghan are not serving the world or demonstrating how service can be universal. They are merely serving themselves. It is all about the Benjamins. It is all about serving themselves so they can make money. And when it comes to even quote unquote serving, I mean, all we have to do is take an example of what they did in Southern California after the wildfires, where they literally made sure that the cameras caught them serving, because it wasn't about serving. It was about being seen serving. There's a huge difference there. They were incognito. They did not have to be publicly seen, except for that they paraded themselves around in front of the camera to make sure the camera knew they were there. And when it comes to their patronages, I haven't heard Meghan do anything about Mayhew in quite a while. The National Theater, Meghan hasn't done anything with that, or the Association of Commonwealth Universities. I mean, we've heard a little bit about SmartWorks in the meantime, but not too much. So this idea that service is universal, well, as soon as it was convenient to stop serving, why, that's the first thing they did. Harry, I think, is a little bit more dedicated, but he also has no career. The guy has zero clue what he wants to do, zero idea of where he's going, and he's just basically treading water. And so, despite, again, saying and claiming that service is universal, while in theory that might be true, Harry and Meghan's definition of service is only serve. thyself. And you got to compare service to Catherine and William, who have served through many trials in their lives and are dedicated to trying to make the United Kingdom a better place, focused on their charities and their work. Their whole life is service. That is what a royal does. To be a royal is to serve. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. It's all about service. So if Harry and Meghan, if service was truly what they wanted to do, service requires sacrifice. It requires being beholden to something bigger than yourselves. But to Harry and Meghan, and I think especially to Meghan, there's nothing bigger than Meghan Markle. So she just simply doesn't care. And that is why, of course, the bank account always trumps any act of service. Then we also have that Harry and Meghan really want to be, I think, world game changers. They kind of go around and attempt to from time to time. And it's like not all the time, but like when they did a tour of New York back, I think it was in 2022, when they went to address the wildfires, when she went to Uvalde for an inexplicable reason after the horrific tragedy there. She needed to go and be seen because, it was so emotional for her, not the families. For her, it was emotional. So she had to go. And several other things, like they try to position themselves, let's say with the Times 100, as world game changers and movers and shakers and two prominent people that the world should pay attention to. When the reality is that all they do is generate headlines. They don't actually create any meaningful impact. And you compare that, of course, to Catherine and William. William is doing a lot of work to try to increase the impact of his work as the Duke of Cornwall, which he oversees. He has lowered rent on some charities and different organizations after a critical piece came out in the Times. Now, of course, the duchy has to generate money like any business. That's kind of life. Nothing is free. It was a wonderful move nonetheless. And we also have Catherine with her early years project, slowly moving in that direction. They're not demanding people pay attention. They're moving in such a way where it captures attention. And Harry and Meghan, of course, are the opposite. Meghan went on Time 100 not because I think they deliberately invited her. It's because she has a PR team that pushes her to the forefront constantly. And we've seen this really throughout her public life. Ever since getting her role on Suits, she is constantly utilizing any money she makes to pay PR teams to do the hard work for her. So I thought it was kind of interesting. I was seeing something on Twitter and they had put up an old video of Meghan, and it was her talking about the TIG, and she was with Kristen Calavari, who was of the Hills fame. And it was sort of interesting because they were talking about the TIG. And I couldn't help but think to myself, Meghan's not being invited on that program really to talk about the TIG because it wasn't generating enough attention for news outlets to actually want to bring her on. The reason she was on there is because of Suits and a rigorous PR machine. That's why she was on there. So we see this reflected in what's happening with her now in many ways and her companies is that it's all noise. She's talking constantly, but when push comes to shove, the impact is minimal. And of course, she can go about doing things that way. But Catherine and William, I think, have a long term view and goals that they're working towards that maybe won't be fully fulfilled in their lifetime, but there's a issue they're really trying to address well. Whereas Harry and Meghan, like I even think of their Parents Network thing, they do a thing for it once or twice a year. But do we hear anything else about it? No. Is it really having any impact? I mean, I have no idea. They are not good at communicating. They are not good at actually showing us how they're working. All they do constantly is generate headline after headline. And what that means is that their PR team as well is not focused on any of the work the couple are actually doing. And if Harry and Meghan want to have an impact, if they want to be world leaders and game changers, then Meghan has to rely less on PR and do some actual work. And I just don't think that is going to happen. Whereas Catherine and William, because of their positions, because of their hard, diligent work, they are having a seat at the table during the state visit. Of course, that's their role, but Catherine being seated next to Emmanuel Macron, you want to bet they had some very interesting conversations, maybe even speaking about her work in the early years and making some impact there with the French president, that so that her research can expand and have a greater foothold in the world. And will the president of France listen? Yes. Does anyone listen to Harry and Meghan? No, because there's so much noise to them. Even any of the quote unquote good work they do, however minimal that might be, is just not reaching anyone. It's not having any impact. And to continue on this idea, of course, Meghan talking endlessly, she prattles on, but are any of her words actually moving? Is any of it having really any true impact? I would argue the answer is no. She might look good saying it. Her words might sound flowery and amazing, but they're devoid of any depth. And in a moment where she could allow a light to be shined on somebody else, she insists on being the one always to take the microphone. Whereas when you compare royals are constantly handing the microphone to somebody else. Yes, they speak too, but they understand that the power comes from not them speaking about it all the time, but from highlighting other people's stories. That's why I really like that Catherine and William often they'll interview people that they interacted with or that they're helping support through their various charities, like William with everything he's doing with the Duchy of Cornwall and those sorts of things. It's about highlighting other people. That's what royals do. They highlight the people of their countries. Whereas Meghan, if she's within the vicinity of a microphone, she demands to have it. She wants to have the microphone constantly because she needs to talk at you. But nothing of consequence ever happens from her prattling. Nothing of consequence does. And I actually think the more she talks, the less people listen and the less people are impacted by what she is talking about because they're sort of seeing through the BS. They're sort of seeing through the nonsense. And at this point, they're just not even as interested as they were previously because Meghan Markle has said a lot, but we don't see any change on the ground. We don't see any movement, any direction one way or another. In fact, when I was on the Archwell website, the two biggest programs that they offered and shared were the Archwell Foundation Parents Network and the Welcome Community. I know not really a lot about any of these organizations. And the Parents Network in particular, I criticize quite severely in some ways because it doesn't seem to be offering any help to families who have experienced, you could say, trauma online because something has happened to their child based on their interactions with others on the internet. Because really, the point of the Parents Network is not to help families, but to help Meghan. Because Meghan claims to be the most trolled woman on the planet. Meghan claims to have such terrible things happening to her on social media as she gets back on social media and is peddling her wares and trying to make money off social media. Obviously, the hypocrisy is plain for anyone to see. And if she really stuck by her thoughts about the internet and everything and the dangers of social media, just simply don't be on it. But it's sort of the biggest thing, getting back to the main title of this video, tiaras and presidents versus flower sprinkles. Now, Meghan has sort of made it her goal, I guess, or this is the hill she wants to die on is flower sprinkles. And think about what flower sprinkles are in many ways. They are a dusting of a superfluous item on food that does not increase taste, does not heighten senses. Really, it does nothing. It just makes it look good for 5 seconds. And looking good, I think, is even questionable, to be quite honest, because it's sort of gross seeming. Like some people have even put it in the batter for their cookies, which I'm like, that's probably not going to be too good. And It's a piece that you can put on anything. You could say anything edible that just merely exists to be pretty for 2 seconds. It offers nothing of depth. It offers no value. It's pointless. It's meaningless. Yeah, maybe you can make things look pretty, but that $15 can probably cost her a buck to put together. Let's be honest. You could get the same thing from your own garden, same thing from Amazon for less than half the price. It is a frankly stupid product. And it's a product she doesn't even use that much because when she made a platter recently, did she put flower sprinkles on it? No, she put flowers that she picked from her garden. The flower sprinkles, I think, so much encompass what Meghan Markle has given up in pursuit of greed. She left a life of service, a life of meaning, a life of purpose, a life where you can change the world. But instead, it was more important for her to sell flower sprinkles. That's all she cares about. She just wants something to look pretty for 2 seconds, not really put any work into it, not really think of its impacts. It's all about the 5-minute aesthetics before she moves on to something else. And to be frank, Meghan Markle leaving the royal family just proves what a classless person she was in the first place. She did not see the value of what the monarchy could offer without a paycheck. It was all about the Benjamins to her, nothing else. And while it may take years, decades, who knows, this kind of thing usually does come back to bite somebody in the behind. And I think we're already seeing sort of the collapse of the Harry and Meghan saga in some ways. And shall see where things go from here. But all I got to say is I would prefer tiaras and presidents over the pointlessness of flower sprinkles. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I shall talk to you again very soon. Bye.